Are you confused about whether the relationship you're in is a trauma bond or a healthy relationship? My name's Ruth Ann. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm an expert in relationships and issues of narcissism. And in this video, I'm going to describe what a trauma bond is and what a healthy relationship looks like. And most importantly, how you can tell the difference. Many survivors of narcissistic abuse describe the relationship they had with the person who abused them as being a trauma bond. It may be with a parent or a partner or someone else that you're emotionally close to. And in a trauma bond, the victim feels intense emotional closeness and connection with someone who's hurting them. In a trauma bond, you feel an intense emotional connection with the other person. And there may be times in the relationship in which they tell you how special you are, how special your relationship is. And when you feel close to them, you can feel really very good and very special and very cherished. There's often idealization from both parties. A narcissistic person will often idealize their partners and their relationships, particularly at the beginning. Remember, one of the diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder is having fantasies of ideal love. So narcissistic people will tend to idealize their partner, see them as perfect, particularly at the beginning of a relationship. However, that idealization is almost always followed by periods of coldness and withdrawal. And when that happens, the victim feels an intense longing to restore the relationship. Now, it is a normal and healthy thing when there is a rupture in a close relationship that you're driven to try to repair the rupture. That's a healthy process. But in a narcissistic relationship, it really goes very much awry because you feel this intense emotional connection, and then when it's broken, you feel an intense longing and desperation to reconnect, and you work really, really hard to try to restore the relationship. In abusive relationships, they can involve incredible levels of criticism, emotional abuse, stonewalling, lying to you, cheating on you, really making you feel small, questioning your reality. All of those things are profoundly hurtful, and they leave you feeling very anxious and vulnerable. And what makes you feel better when you're anxious and vulnerable? Being close to the person who's most important to you. And so you will seek out that person you're trauma bonded to, even though they may also be the source of the rejection and the hurt and the harm that's coming to you. People often feel immense shame for being in an abusive relationship, and questioning someone who has so much power over you is a very frightening and brave thing to do. Denial and pretending it isn't happening is far more comfortable than facing up to the reality and the truth of the situation that you find yourself in. So if you are watching this while you're in an abusive relationship and you're asking questions about your relationship, you might find it painful or uncomfortable to watch. And if that's you, then I would encourage you to keep watching. If you need to take a break, that's fine. Hit the pause button, come back to it later. But do give yourself the opportunity to ask difficult questions about your relationship, to really evaluate whether or not this is a relationship where your emotional needs are being met, or whether this is a relationship where you're being systematically abused and hurt. The good news is that it is possible to get out of a trauma bond. And if you've been in a trauma bond, it is possible for you to form new and healthy relationships which are based on mutual respect. But the first and most difficult step is being honest with yourself. Number one, a trauma bonded relationship is characterized by conflict, constant fighting, constant arguments, constant upset. Nothing ever gets resolved, and there's a sense of constantly having to work on the relationship, having to understand the relationship, having to think about the relationship. In a trauma bond, the entire focus will be on the relationship, working on the relationship, thinking about the relationship. There's very little space for anything else. And conflicts will often escalate to the point of threatening to leave the relationship. It's not possible to just have an argument or have a disagreement with your partner without it being a major threat to the entire relationship. By contrast, a healthy relationship is calm. When you're with a partner and you have a healthy relationship that's based on mutual respect and reciprocity, yes, you will have disagreements and there will be conflicts and you will have competing emotional needs because you're both human. But there will be a sense of calm and a sense that both parties are committed to the relationship and to each other. There's also space for each partner to be an individual, to pursue their own life goals, and for you as a couple to pursue the things that are important to you, whether that is shared interests and hobbies, other friendships and relationships, or your family, and the things that are important to you and your partner as you build a life together. Conflict in a healthy relationship is an opportunity to know and understand each other, to respectfully work things through, to reach compromise, to have give and take, and it doesn't escalate into threats to leaving the relationship. Number 2, a narcissistic relationship and a trauma bond will usually be characterized by elaborate fantasies about the future. Remember, one of the diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder are fantasies of ideal love and unlimited power and success. Narcissistic people will often present elaborate fantasies about how amazing and wonderful everything is going to be in the future. When I get a promotion, when my boss recognizes how wonderful I am and gives me a pay rise, when we move house, when we have children, when our children move out, everything is going to be transformed. Everything is going to be completely different. Narcissistic abuse survivors often call this future faking. It's a fantasy, and often the narcissistic person genuinely believes that fantasy, but it isn't based in reality. In a healthy relationship, you may well make plans for the future, but those plans are typically quite specific and concrete. And more importantly, you are able to enjoy the relationship as it is right here and right now. The relationship is good now. When I ask people who are in narcissistic relationships to tell me what's good about their relationship or what's good about their partner, their answers are often quite vague, maybe idealistic. Well, there's chemistry. It's a very special kind of love. It's hard to understand. What they won't be able to do is give very clear, specific examples of their partner's love for them, how their partner respects them, how their partner supports them. If I talk to people who are in healthy relationships, they'll often be able to give quite clear and concrete examples of the ways in which their partner is supportive of them and that they're supportive of each other. This usually isn't big gestures. And in fact, I'm a little skeptical about really big gestures. It's really in the little things. It's whether your partner is just generally respectful of you on a day-to-day basis. Make space for your priorities and the things that are important to you, and vice versa. So, something to look for is this relationship good? Good enough as it is right now? Would you be happy with this relationship to stay as it is? And if the answer to that is no, if you're waiting for something amazing in the future, then ask yourself big questions. Is this a narcissistic relationship? Is this a trauma bond? Are there really good reasons for staying in this relationship as it is right now? Number 3, narcissistic people are typically highly perfectionistic and critical of both themselves and of the people that they're in relationships with. So if your partner's constantly criticizing you and treating you as a kind of improvement project and telling you how you can improve and be a better person and a better partner, ask yourself, is this a trauma bond or is this a healthy relationship? In a healthy relationship, you should have the sense that your partner loves and accepts you as you are. And yes, they support your development and your growth as a human being. But your flaws, your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, they're accepted by them. They're part of who you are. And that's okay with them. And likewise, you will know your partner's weaknesses and vulnerabilities and be able to love and accept them for who they are as they are right now. And yes, they'll be your biggest supporter, but they'll also be there if there are times when you fail at things or you're disappointed in things. Number 4, narcissistic people tend to be isolated in their relationships. And there's several reasons for that. So first of all, narcissistic people like to be in control. So they may not want you to be close to other people. They want to be all things to you. And it can be a threat to them if someone else is able to meet some emotional needs that you have. Paying attention to how your partner is around other people and how other people perceive your partner can be very revealing. This can play out in different ways. Sometimes the narcissistic person is incredibly charming and perfect in front of other people, and people can think how lucky you are to have such a great partner who's so wonderful. But you know that their behavior is radically different at home. You know that behind closed doors, when no one else is watching, they're harsh, they're critical, they're demeaning towards you. Ask yourself, if someone who genuinely loved and cared about you could see the way your partner was treating you, how would they respond to the way that your partner treats you behind closed doors? That's a really interesting question to ask. Now, other times this plays out differently. Other times the mask does drop and other people see things very, very clearly, maybe even more clearly than you do. So you might be kind of caught up in that future faking, that idealization, that fantasy that this is going to be the ideal relationship. But your friends or family, people who are close to you and who genuinely care about you, are expressing that they're uncomfortable with some of the ways that your partner is treating you. And what you may find is that you're making excuses and justifications for them. You might be saying, well, they're stressed, or they're unwell, or they're having a difficult time, or they didn't get a lot of sleep, or they have had a little bit too much to drink. And that's a red flag that you could be in a trauma bond, because there's really something there that your partner is not treating you in a way that's respectful, in a way that is caring, and other people asking questions about your relationship is something to pay attention to. One important question you can ask yourself is whether you and the people close to you have a shared perception of your relationship, or whether you're constantly making excuses and justifications for someone, or whether your friends and family are thinking this is the most amazing partner, but they're not seeing what's going on behind closed doors. If you're realizing some difficult truths as a result of watching this video, my heart really goes out to you. But I also know that facing the truth and facing the reality, breaking that fantasy, is so important in healing and recovery from narcissistic relationships. You owe it to yourself to see things clearly and as they are, through the lens of compassion and care for yourself, not to judge or criticize yourself or beat yourself up for being in this situation. So be honest with yourself and be gentle with yourself. And even if you're not ready to leave the relationship, or you're not able to leave the relationship for whatever reason, I do encourage you to still try to see things clearly, to have realistic expectations, to tell the truth to yourself, and also to make space and time for other relationships and friendships, so you can have the experience of being treated in a way that's respectful, that allows you to be seen and heard, and allows you to see yourself as someone who is worthy of love and genuine connection. I hope this video has been helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment. Hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to know more about narcissism and narcissistic abuse recovery. I look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, take good care.